For a person born with curiosity and a restless spirit, travel is the best education. That person is me, Neil Howard Millman. A large portion of my life has been spent on the road. I have enjoyed a proclivity for travel that most people would envy. I've been places that others can only dream of. And I did so not as a bored tourist, but as a global citizen with a keen desire to explore our world at a deeper level. The adventures and misadventures are too innumerable to fully account for. Yet my story deserves to be told, if only in the most perfunctory manner. To look at me, you would not expect that I am one of the most traveled persons in the world and in history. Ultimately, my wanderlust will come to a complete stop. But for now, I can outline some of the journeys that made me who I am. What made me a world traveler was the ability to apply my right thumb towards getting free rides. Hitchhiking. It works marvelously with cars, trucks, and even airplanes. Add in hopping freight trains and working passage on ships, and the miles really add up. To date, my travels amount to around 250,000 miles. Nearly 30 years on the road through 49 states and 70 countries. Although there is no way to verify it, I might hold a record as the most traveled hitchhiker in history. Given the immense dangers extant in footless travel, that is no small feat. Certainly God was my co-pilot. As a child, I had no idea of becoming a prodigious world traveler, but factors in youth favored such a possibility, and I took full advantage of the opportunities afforded me. What made me so different from everyone else? It all began with my family. I was born in a small Massachusetts town in the Berkshire Mountains, as idyllic a place as ever there was. I was the third son and am older brother to two sisters and a younger brother. My big brothers, Ken and Dean, however, were not pedestrian souls. Their gregarious and independent natures resonated with mine, and when they left the nest, I was inclined to do so soon. Four factors influenced my early development. The first was growing up in a region surrounded by farms and forests where my imagination took root in nature. This fondness was shared with my sister Lynn. Beyond simply romping through the woods, however, I was intrigued by what lay on the other side of the mountain. I wanted to follow the setting sun over the horizon. I knew the world was bigger than quaint Williamstown, and I wanted to see it for myself. Second, Mom and Dad themselves had a love for travel and took us annually on vacations. Most memorable was when they took me and Dean on a week-long trip up to New Brunswick, Canada. I was 8 years old and no longer a child that needed to be fussed with, but put me in a car and I was ready to go. That trip was my first glimpse of the larger world. Although born in New York City, Henry Millman, my dad, was a cowboy at heart. Periodically, he traveled to Bermuda and the American Southwest and brought back anole lizards and intriguing Super 8 movies. Third was a movie we watched in 1960, Around the World in 80 Days, wherein David Niven and Quentin Floss undertake the most monumental journey. I ached to see the same exotic places they passed through. At that moment, a lifelong dream was created, to hitchhike around the world. I had no idea how or when I would accomplish it, but the time was approaching when I would be able to undertake such an attempt. Fourth, Dad and Mom were then in the process of pulling up stakes and heading out to Utah to relocate. Hooking up a trailer to a station wagon loaded with 5 restless kids, Dad bravely drove us across the country, but not in a beeline. Rather, he took us to see the major attractions along the way. Niagara Falls, Chimney Rock, Mount Rushmore, Devil's Tower, and of course, Yellowstone National Park. 2 dusty weeks. And while the rest of the crew was exhausted, I drank in the new sights with relish. That was in 1961. We lived in Utah for 3 years, before which Dad again made a final move to Carson City, Nevada.